I'm Dr. Christopher Barker, a New Jersey licensed clinical psychologist, and welcome to Holding Space. I have written a book. I've been talking about this in various platforms. It's called Now and Then, and the subtitle is Complex Trauma and the Disruption of Relational Time. Now, what does that mean? Relational time is something that happens in the moment between an event. I don't like the word trigger. Being like activator or activating event and the conclusion, which may be just one thought and another thought. Let me explain. I did a workbook that goes along with this, and I wanted to do one of the exercises from the workbook that sort of explains what this book is about a little more. So there are moments that seem small from the outside. A delayed look, a distracted look, a delayed reply, a pause in someone's voice, a text message that simply says, "Can we talk later?" I hate that one. I think we all have our own private demons. But for some people, these moments pass through without much impact. But for others, something happens almost instantly. Your body tightens. Your mind races ahead. The future begins collapsing into a conclusion before anything has actually been explained. And suddenly a moment is no longer just a moment. It becomes proof. It becomes prediction. It can become danger. It can become rejection or even a fully formed sense of loss. Today I want to talk about that shift, not simply as anxiety, not simply as overthinking, but as something I describe through the lens of relational trauma and relational time, because for many people shaped by complex trauma, the nervous system does not experience uncertainty as open. It experiences uncertainty as already decided. One of the exercises in the workbook talks about the shift, and we begin by helping people slow down enough to actually see that process happening, not to judge it, not to shame it. Shame is another one of those things that can happen, but to finally recognize it. So if you're listening right now, I'd like you to do this along with me. I would like you to think of a recent moment that changed emotionally very quickly. Not necessarily a major trauma, just a moment. Maybe someone became quieter. Maybe a message went unanswered. Maybe someone's tone shifted. Maybe you suddenly felt distance where connection had existed just moments before. Take a second and picture it. Now notice what happened next. Not the story yet. Your body. Did your chest tighten? Did your stomach drop? Did you suddenly feel a sense of urgency? Did your breathing change? Did your attention narrow? Many people notice that the body begins preparing before the conscious mind fully understands why. And this matters. We've all heard that the body keeps a score. We know that the nervous system is involved in everything that happens mentally. The nervous system is not only responding to the present moment, it's responding to what the moment has historically become. That is very different. Now ask yourself, what is the meaning that formed almost immediately? Maybe they're upset with me. I did something wrong. They're pulling away. This relationship is changing. I'm about to lose something. I think that's probably one of the biggest thoughts for a lot of people is that, oh, something's changed. I'm going to lose something. Notice how quickly the mind moves from uncertainty to certainty. You're absolutely sure how this is going to turn out. And for many trauma survivors, this does not feel irrational. It feels responsible. It feels protective. It feels necessary. We've talked about attachment theory, and one of the things that happens is as children, we learn to predict what's happening based on what has happened. It's kind of like when When we learn language, we crack the code. Nobody sits down and explains exactly how to speak in whatever language you learn to speak in first. It happens because you listen to other people, you figure things out. When we're given ambiguous meanings, when we're given ambiguous circumstances and we have to figure out what's going to happen next, as children, we base that on what has happened before. And that can be good, that can be bad, that can be indifferent. If it's bad, that makes it even worse. Or if it goes unconcluded, worse still, because we're left hanging. At some point in life, waiting to understand what was happening may actually have been dangerous. So your nervous system learned: predict quickly, prepare early, do not get caught off guard. So now even small relational shifts can feel loaded with finality. Next part. What future suddenly felt certain? Not what might happen. What felt as though it was already happening? Did your mind jump ahead into abandonment, into conflict, humiliation, withdrawal, loss? This is one of the central ideas in my work. Complex trauma is often not only about what happened, it is about the collapse of sequence, the collapse of time. The future arrives too early in the body. And once that happens, people often begin reacting not to the present moment, but to the anticipated ending of the moment. There have been studies that show that the electrical impulse that creates a thought happens before the actual thought itself. It's not that the thought creates the feeling. Sometimes the feeling creates the thought. There's an impulse, and it largely comes from what our body has learned. And we can begin expecting an ending, and the ending that we expect or predict is usually based on the past. Now, notice the urge that appeared. Do you want reassurance? Do you want to explain yourself? Do you have the impulse to withdraw, to shut down, to overanalyze, to fix, to disappear, to become angry, become accommodating? Again, none of this is random. These are survival responses attempting to regain predictability. The problem is that when the nervous system becomes too certain too quickly, it often closes moments before they have fully unfolded. And this is where healing begins to look different from what many people expect. Healing is not becoming perfectly calm. It is not never reacting. It is not becoming detached from emotion. Healing is gradually developing the ability to remain inside an unfinished moment without immediately collapsing it into a fixed future. That is difficult work, because uncertainty can feel physically unsafe when your history has taught you that connection changes suddenly, unpredictably, or painfully. But over time, something new becomes possible. A pause begins to appear. Not a forced pause, although you can begin by sort of saying, I'm going to take a breath here. Not a performative mindfulness exercise. A real moment when the nervous system slowly learns, I do not yet know what this moment means. And that single shift can change entire relationships. Maybe the delayed reply means someone is overwhelmed. Maybe the distracted tone has nothing to do with you. Maybe tension does not automatically mean abandonment. Maybe uncertainty can remain uncertain a little longer. Not forever, just long enough for the moment to continue unfolding. One of the most painful aspects of complex trauma is that people often stop experiencing moments as open. The ending arrives emotionally before the interaction is even completed. You know how in communication skills in Psych 101, we're told to listen completely, do not start forming an answer before the person has finished talking. Well, we do that too with these moments. You begin organizing your life around anticipated endings. You avoid closeness. You begin to seek certainty, becoming desperate for it. You're scanning constantly. You're pulling away too early or trying to secure a connection to grasp before it changes. But healing is not about pretending things never happened. Relationships do rupture. People do disappoint us sometimes. Loss exists. Healing is about no longer forcing every unfinished moment to become the same ending automatically. It's about allowing more than one possibility to exist at the same time. If you take that pause and you see it as a gap between here and now, there are multiple possibilities for how this can go. And you can wait for it. And it takes time and it takes practice. This is not an automatic switch. There are no automatic switches. I'm sorry for feelings. There's no magic pill. There's no automatic switches. We can't just turn something off. But over repeated attempts to pause and to see new outcomes, we can finally find a sense of a different rhythm. I want you to ask yourself one question. What happens if the future of this moment is not fully decided yet? Think about that moment that we pictured initially. And think about that. What happens if the future of that moment is not fully decided yet? It's not solved. It's not denied. It's not magically positive. Just not fully decided. What changes inside you when the moment remains open a little longer? Because that openness, that ability to stay present before the story hardens, is often where relational healing begins. Thank you for listening to this exercise. If you like this kind of content, please feel free to like, subscribe, ask questions. I do get back and answer them as quickly as I can. If you have suggestions for future topics, if you want to hear more exercises from the workbook, I'm certainly glad to present them. This has been a conversation about relational time, complex trauma, and the moments that begin closing before life is fully unfolded. Take care of yourselves. And thank you for holding space for me today, as I hold space for you. And try, when you can, to let the moment continue a little longer.